Hello again, Sheila with Creative Aging. As you can see, we are going to make a little clay llama today. And we've not done quite this much sculpting. So it's a lot of maneuvering with your fingers and using your pencil or clay tool to make that texture. And I'm gonna keep it simple because this is gonna take a while to form. And so we're not gonna use any pigments or paints. And so it's great because you can leave the clay color white, so you don't have to do anything after you bake it except for add a little eye, and that can be done with your fine point Sharpie. And so this will be just an hour and a half of focusing on really how to maneuver the clay and work three-dimensionally. And all of this is formed with fingers. All right, so you obviously need your clay. This is bigger than a golf ball size, and you can tell it came right out of the box. I have not warmed it up. So you need your clay. You need your clay pencil, which hopefully you guys all have these at this point. You don't use them for writing because they get really gunky. And you don't want too sharp of a point. So be mindful of how, don't sharpen it and get a sharp point because that changes the look. And for this one, you want it to be a little dull. And if you have clay tools, you can definitely use clay tools. Like this is almost too sharp, but if you have it, you can play with it and see what you think. This one is a little more dull. You can even play with all edges. So if you have clay tools, I recommend you get those out and use this project just to make texture. And you can also look around your facility and just see what you can use. We've used butter knives and forks in the past. So you don't have to buy clay tools. You can just use something around your home and just play. You can definitely do texturing and clay with anything. I mean, you can use fake flowers or fake leaves and just use the intricate veins to make texture. And so please feel free to just play. This should be a good project to play. So as you can see, I'm warming this up. This is a bigger ball than we're used to using. So if it hurts your hand, split it up. I don't want you to hurt your hand, so you can just hold it. Just up to you. Some people like to roll it on the table. So this should not take long. Once you have your clay warmed up, which you can tell, it's soft. It didn't take long. Every batch of clay is different, and especially if you're storing it in a cold place or it hasn't been used in a while, it might take longer. But this one's actually pretty soft. And so let's go ahead and we're just gonna start sculpting. So I'm just gonna start using my finger. I wanna go ahead and get a little head. So I'm going to kind of have my finger flat on one side, and I'll just push up and just pinch. So just push and pinch, and thankfully your fingernail marks won't matter on this project because we're gonna do a bunch of fur. So you won't see them, and honestly, it'll look just like fur. So if you have fingernails, don't even worry about them today. I don't think I've ever said that. And all right, and so if you have, so that neck is looking kind of normal, but you're gonna need a little face. So if you need more clay, you're just gonna maneuver it. We're just gonna move the clay. So if you have too much there, just move it up. Just push it. And trust me, it does take a while. So just be patient. And we're gonna make really simple little legs. And so you can just use your finger and push in. Make some little feet. You don't want them too big because we want this to stand. So I don't want you to make them too long. So see, I just pinched. And so see, I just pinched here, and then I can use my finger and go in between. And by the way, I've never made a llama before. I don't know. I've never painted a llama before, so I'm playing too. Don't think that I sit around and make llamas, because I definitely don't. This was my first one. And so it's just all about playing and using this clay and manipulating it and just being patient and looking at detail. And thankfully, when we start using our pencil, we can maneuver it even more. And feel free, I looked at a picture of a llama to do my first one. So you can, look at the pictures, especially when you get to the face. Okay, and they kind of have a little bitty, not much of a tail. So I'm going to do the same thing and just maybe pinch it right back there. Just kind of flatten and pinch. And if you see big lumps, just push down on it. See right, smooth and push. Okay, let's really work on this neck, because if it does not have the right neck and it doesn't have the right shaped face, it will not look like a llama. So that is probably the most important thing. So we're gonna make this neck really thin. So I want you to just pay attention, and the neck needs to kind of go straight up and down. So I'm going to push right here. And I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm just going to smooth it and push. And this little face right now looks like a horse. It needs to have a little point on the edge of the face. And I actually think I might have too much clay on this face, so I'm going to pinch some of it off because that's too big. It looks like a camel. So if you do not get the shape of this face and the neck right, it will change animals. And you know what? If you decide you want a camel, or you could start forming this into a horse, you can switch animals. So I'm gonna pinch some of this clay off because I think it's gonna be easier, and then I can use the other clay for the ears. So depending on what yours is looking like right now, you can keep going or you can pinch a little clay off. And so I've got that clay, I'm gonna set it aside. Okay, so the front of the face is pointy kinda, so I wanna move my finger around, but to have like a little mouth. Okay, let me stop for a minute. So see how I've got that shape? And look at the neck. Obviously this is too much, so let's push that. And I know this is probably our hardest clay project, but this is really good practice. It's not as easy to even give instructions on this because it's a lot of just manipulating and figuring it out. But this kind of project is really good for problem solving. It exercises a certain part of your brain, and using your fingers, it is a better stress release. So if you're stressed out, this should be very therapeutic and help you. Okay, let's get some ears, and then we're going to continue working on that little face. And I'm going to push down on the back, because see right there, it's just all the same size, and the face of these things are a little wider in the back. So I want this to be wider, so I'm going to just push down on the back side of it, right there. And just push, see I'm moving the clay just a little bit out, and then that way when I do the ears, it'll look better. Same thing right there. Okay, let's do some little ears. So we have this clay left over. You can use the ears. I mean, you can do it as you're sculpting, but I'm just gonna do it separately, because if you wanna do each part of this llama separately and then put it together, you can do that too. I think it can be a little harder because you have to make sure every piece is, you know, connected well, and then you have to do more smoothing. See what I mean? So right there, you can see where I put it on. So now you have to smooth it. It's just different, you know, it's different. So please try both and see what works best for you. Every artist has their little technique. So I'm just kind of making a little triangle and making a point on one end. So see, I flatten and then I squeeze. I'm doing one thumb here and then I'm using a pinch on the end. So then it flattens and makes it wider, and then it makes a point. And then just place it wherever. Make sure you place it to where it's kind of balanced on the other side. And they go out a little bit. And thankfully, if you still can see where you put it, we're probably gonna cover that up with the pencil mark, so you don't have to make this perfect. We're gonna do a lot with the pencil texture. And so let's just look around, make sure, you know, you got little feet. Make sure there's no part that's too big. This poor llama looks a little chubby, so I'm going to give him more space in between right here. So see, it's hard to really explain what I'm doing because I'm using my fingers in every different way. I mean, I'm pinching, I'm kind of patting. So just do it your own way. Just maneuver and move this clay around. Okay, so I'm getting these a little bit more separated. Okay, there we go. Got his weight under control, I think. All right, I'm gonna take a pause and show you how it's looking. If you see something really weird, out of place looking, take care of it. And of course, as always, I want you to take more time than I am taking on this video. Remember, I've already done this before, so I had my practice round. So I failed and tried again and played. So I've done a practice round already. So I'm doing it faster for this video, but if you need to take a pause before you get to the pencil etching, so if you want to pause this and then when everyone's kind of at a place to do the pencil work, then maybe start it over. So I think that if I want to do any more maneuvering, I can do it while I'm doing the pencil work. So take your pencil and now think about the fur. It's going to go in a direction of the shape. So, you know, just look at your image of a llama online if you want to make it easier, and just look at their direction of how their fur moves. And remember, it's kind of short, so you don't want to do big long movements and you don't want to do dots either. You want it to look a little bit like a real llama. And I would press a little hard because this should be very noticeable. This is going to make it look like a llama. And it's gonna be cute and furry and... All right, so see, I'm just moving that pencil. You can either just kind of draw and drag, or you can kind of just press in. It makes almost the exact size mark. So see how long my pencil that is? So I can almost just tap. You can do it. Lots of tiny little marks. Just make sure to move it. You don't want these marks to all go the same direction. You want it to look like fur. And you want it to look like lots of layers of fur. And just keep moving. So I honestly, okay, I want you to look at the difference in my marks. So I did lots of short, choppy, and moved the pencil. Whereas here, I just pushed the pencil into it. And I don't really like that as much. So I'm gonna go over it, and I'm just gonna, I like the drawing. I think it looks better, and it gets more movement. So it's all trial and error, figure out what looks best. And right here, I'm gonna kind of use the direction of the neck, curving some of them out. And then I'm gonna curve some of them down around the belly. And you've noticed I'm holding my animal the whole time. I think it's easier to hold it and feel it and move it around. But you want to be careful how hard you're pushing. So don't hold it tightly, because you're going to move your marks. But we're drawing pretty deeply, so even if you get a fingerprint, I think it'd be okay. Just be mindful. So this side, same thing. Move it around the neck. It's gonna be pretty straight, but then through the body, it's gonna move. And isn't this fun? You don't have to clean up your little chunks, or you don't have to smooth anything out. I think this is a fun project, because usually you have to polish and smooth and, you know, clean your pencil. I'm like not even cleaning my pencil. So I get to do this and just really, you know, sorry, it's almost meditative to do this. So it's hard for me to talk. You guys probably won't talk. It's seriously really relaxing. Okay, so this is where I'm going to move down. And this is, okay, so I want you to notice on this side, I feel like it's lost its shape a little bit. So this is where I can push as I go if I want to move a couple, you know, just get a little more shape. If it looks too big in certain areas, just go ahead and press on it as you're working, or you could press harder with your pencil and you can maneuver the clay that way. So I'm going downward now, and then I'm curving some of it out right here. And this is the first layer of fur, so you can always go over this again. Let's go. So I want this to go straight back. So think about there's a dividing line, and have some of the fur go one direction and some of it to go the other. Think about if you part your own hair, you know, your hair is going to fall a certain way. So we're doing the same thing. The directional lines really make a big difference. There's a lump there. I don't know if you can see it. It's hard to see clay projects sometimes in videos, I think. So I don't want it to look like it has a little problem back there, so I'm going to push that in. There was a weird lump to where it didn't quite look like the tail, so I'm getting rid of it. All right. So as you can, oh, sorry, I think I was off the screen. As you can see, I went right here, you can see where I put my finger and it's looking, it lost my texture. If you're holding it too long, it will start sticking to your fingers because the clay is getting too warmed up. If that is happening, like it's happening right now with me, you're gonna tell it gets sticky and it's going to mess up some of your lines. So if that's happening with you, I want you to set it down for a minute and we're gonna let it cool off. And you can, at this point, work on it. Let me move my tripod. I'm gonna work on it on the table so I don't lose a lot of my texture and stuff. So bear with me, I'm going to move this down so you can see it a little better. Please notice my beautiful art table that I love. This is one piece of art that I just really love. It's sad I don't buy that much art for myself, but I bought this beautiful table. Okay, so I'm gonna continue. I hope you can see it, okay. My finger got too warm and it took away some of these lines. So I'm going over it again. But see, I'm trying to not touch it in the same spots, but if you might really need to just set it down and give it a break. And honestly, while you give it a break, you can kind of look at the picture and figure out how you're gonna do your face. So I'm gonna show you this one. So these ears, I smoothed the ear out. So I put my little pinky and I smoothed it. And then I did just a tiny few lines to kind of give the hair around it. So I did a few little lines. There's not that many lines on the ear though. So you don't want the ear to be furry, but I just did a couple drawing lines, very faint. And then I went right up against the ear and I drew down and I drew around. Okay, so look at the face and then draw a little mouth. And then you gotta poke your eyes in there. So just push and don't be afraid to poke pretty deeply for the eyes. I'm gonna go ahead and do that on this one. So this little face needs a little bit of work. Now you can do a little bit of light fur on the face, but you don't want it to be as deep as through the body. So I'm just gonna do some light lines. Just very faint. So be lighter here. So see how deep I drew right there? I want you to lighten up. Go to the top of the head, the same thing. And they're gonna be shorter too. So this is where you need to be very mindful of how hard you're pressing and how long you're drawing your lines. So go ahead and go lighter and draw them shorter because this hair on the face is probably gonna be a little shorter. And see the ear where I pressed it on. Now you can tell a difference. I did not press this one on, I just molded it as I was going along. So if you did press it on, you're gonna need to smooth it a little bit more to make sure it doesn't look separate. And let's move those ears out a little bit. And then you can draw to cover it up a little bit. So just draw your faint lines around the bottom and do a few on the face. See, I'm doing the same thing, moving the direction of it. Don't ever do the straight lines on these things. And if you want to draw into the ear, okay, then you can just clean your pencil off for this detailed parts. So you can just draw a little bit if you want to have a little detail in the ear. This is up to you. And then make your line, and you can just press all the way across to give it a little mouth. If you have a butter knife, that would probably work really well. You can draw it. So there's a few options. You can just press, you can draw across. And you know what? I think this mouth is too wide. So now that I look at it, I'm gonna push it in. I want this face to be a little bit, like the nose to be smaller. So I pushed it in and I squeezed it together. And then let's do some eyes. So be very careful where you put these eyes. You can totally change your animal by where you put the eyes. So go right here. Thankfully, if you mess up, you can always smooth out and do some of this part again. You are gonna probably mess up. Remember, this is learning and it's trial and error, and I doubt any of you have sculpted a llama in your entire life, so don't think that you're gonna get this perfectly. It takes a while. And even if you do take your time doing this, it still might not even look like a llama at the end. But maybe you'll have a good laugh, and maybe you'll change your animal. Okay. So this part, this is where you need to take a break. You need to look at it, figure out what you like, what you don't like. Work on parts that aren't, there's something wrong. If your eye's getting stuck, I always say this, if your eye's getting stuck on something, that means that it's off balance. This is with clay, painting, drawing. If your eye is getting stuck in one place, you need to work on it and figure out what it is. So you really need to take a break, let your eyes relax and just look at it. And then if there's something that your eyes like focused on, then maybe you need to figure out what it is and fix it. But you can't do that until you take a break. So I want you to pause and figure it out, what you want to do, if you like it, if there's something weird, if you want to do more on their little, you don't really see much of the feet, so I didn't do a lot of work on them. Make sure it stands, by the way. So if yours is for some reason not standing or it's crooked, you might need to tap it. Okay, so that's pretty easy to do. You just tap, 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 and it will make it flat on the bottom, and then it will stand. And if you do like it, if you feel like it's done, you looked at the whole thing, make sure, remember, it's three-dimensional. Sculpting is made to look at every single edge. So look at all of it. And if you're happy with it, go ahead, bake it 275. We're doing all the same stuff. Bake it for 275. Put it on foil on a cookie sheet. Get it in your toaster oven, a regular oven. And I'm gonna have you bake these maybe at 15 minutes. So bake them at 12 to 15 minutes because these are a little thicker than some of our other projects. And make sure they're gonna be like lava rocks. Don't touch them. Take them out of the oven, let them cool. And then you can look at them, and we don't even have to paint or do anything else to them, but you might want to do a little bit of Sharpie in the eye. And so that's, once it's out of the oven, like this one's done, you can just take your Sharpie and just dot right in the eye. Okay, go to the other one. Just go into your eye and dot. And then they should be done. And you guys have the pigments. If for some reason you want a silver or gold llama, you know how to do that. So if you want to do pigments on these, remember you do the pigments before you bake them. It's up to you. You can always paint them too. It's your art. You have to look at it, not me. Anyways, there are pictures and description of the project. Please feel free to look at that and have fun. See you next week. Bye.